Chapter 2. The ranch was lost, most of it anyway. Bob sold off the wool, then a lot of the sheep. It was a sad time for us all, but we worked when Bob wanted us to. We did our part. Then one morning, months later, instead of the old red truck, there came a different truck. This one was big and black and had wire all around the back of it. We soon learned why. While Ellen cried in Bob's arms, we pups were rounded up and put into the big cage. You never heard such howling and barking, dogs everywhere and men chasing after them. I was so curious they snatched me up first. Mom went wild. She ran in circles up to Bob, then back to the truck, barking and crying. Where was Dad? Dad would save us, wouldn't he? Then, as the truck pulled away, I saw him. He was standing off to the side next to Old Dex. I yelled, Dad! So did my brothers and sister, all yelping and barking at once. Dad lifted his snout. I think by that he meant for us to be brave, but my heart was breaking and I couldn't be brave. I whined and yipped and cried until I had no voice left. Where were they taking us? And why did they leave our moms and dads behind? Why didn't they want Old Dex, the best of us all? How would we learn to herd sheep without him? And where were Bob and Ellen? Why did they let the black truck take us away? The rest I'd rather forget. Somewhere on that dark journey I lost a brother, my sister, all my friends, and then my last brother, the runt. And I was alone, caged like the lowest form of criminal. Going, where? I couldn't begin to guess. Exhausted, I slept as much as I could, hearing only the clink and clank of metal as I went from one cage to another. At last I opened my eyes and found myself in a space hardly big enough to turn around in, staring through the glass. Across the way, a bunch of mice were running like crazy around a little wheel. Next to me, a pair of beagle pups were curled up together asleep. Where was I? I yipped and turned in circles, scratched at the glass. Nobody came. The mice never turned their pink noses, never stopped running. I had to settle myself down, figure out where I was. I could see it was a place with lots of animals. Alongside the mice was another glass box. This one filled with water and the strangest creatures moving through it. Gold and blue and green with round, staring eyes and wavy tails. Well, I'd never seen fish before. You can imagine what I thought. The fish and mice were so busy I could forget for a little while that I was behind glass too. But every now and then, a big green and yellow bird hanging from the ceiling would screech, "Abandoned ship!" and scare me half to death. After a while, a man came and opened my door. "Here we go, pup," he said, and lifted me out. I was so grateful to be free of that box, I slobbered all over his hand. He scratched my neck, then he slung me over his shoulder and carried me through the whole place. It was something, all right, filled with animals I'd never seen the likes of in my life. Not only fish, but snakes and lizards, too. Well, I'd run into a few of those on the ranch, but not such big guys. One lizard gave me the eye, turning his big green head real slow as we passed. Gave me the creeps. But all the while, a bunch of canaries were singing their hearts out. It made you feel as if everything would turn out all right after all. That's when I saw the water, a whole tub of it, and it was meant for me. "In you go," the man said. My feet started scrambling through air. I cried like the baby I was, but it didn't do one bit of good. "It's all right," the man said, and plop in the water I went. "You'll feel lots better when you've had a nice warm bath." I'll bet you've heard that one before. Well, I knew that if I'd needed a bath, Bob would have given me one, and now I knew why he didn't. Baths are terrible things. Soap suds in your eyes and up your nose, making you sneeze, bubbles popping and snapping in your ears, your feet slipping out beneath you. Afterward, I couldn't stop shaking, couldn't get all that water off. I really thought I'd lost the good smell of me forever. Dinner wasn't much better. Hard little pellets tasted like the paper bag they came out of. And then back in that darn glass box. I folded my paws over my head and went to sleep, longing for home. I didn't like this new place. I don't like the other pups. I don't think the other pups did either. The beagles slept all the time. I think they were depressed. It was downright humiliating for a dog to be stuck like a fish or a snake inside a glass box, especially a dog of my proud lineage. I kept thinking about Dad, about the way he lifted his snout. I was trying to be brave, but I couldn't help wondering what would become of me. Why did the man keep me in the box? Didn't he have some sheep somewhere I could herd? What good was a dog in a box? Well, I didn't have to wonder long. One afternoon, a little girl with yellow curls pointed up to me and said, "I want him." The girl's father moved in onto the beagles. "How about one of these?" he said. "There's lots of nice dogs in this pet shop." "I want him! I want him! I want him!" the little girl shrieked, jumping up and down. The father smiled. I guess he liked the way she jumped and shrieked. "Well, it's your birthday," he said. "You get to choose." The man with all the animals opened my box and lifted me out. "You are one lucky pup," he said, handing me over to the father. "You're going to have a new home." We got into a shiny blue car. Penelope, that was the little girl's name, put me on her lap. I hopped right off to explore that car, but she yanked me back. You have to sit still, she said. Well, I was so excited I could hardly hold my water, much less sit still, but I tried. Penelope wasn't very strong, but she could shriek like anything. The world went flying by that car window so fast I couldn't see straight. Penelope had her arms locked tight around me, and I could hardly breathe. I was glad when at last we came to a stop in front of a big white house. We all got out, and Penelope put me down. I ran straight for the grass. All around the grass were pointy white sticks and red flowers. The flowers poked your nose if you tried to smell them. I was about to mark my new territory when Penelope snatched me right off my feet and took me into the house. In no time at all, she had a dress on me with a matching bonnet and was pushing me in a baby stroller. You're the baby, Blackie, Penelope said, and I'm the mommy. Now don't wet your pants, baby, or mommy will have to spank you. Just makes you cringe, doesn't it? Oh, honey, said Penelope's mother to Penelope's father. Come see this. Isn't this the cutest thing? No help there. My self-respect was leaking like a rusty bucket. At last I was released from my silly clothes and taken outside. There I was given a corner of the yard in which to do my business and a miniature version of the White House to live in. By myself. Nobody to cuddle with. No warm fur except my own. A rubber bone to chew on. It was a sorrowful existence for a pup. The glass box had been bad enough, but at least I had company. Sorry to say, I wasn't very brave that first night. I whined and howled my head off, but nobody came, except for the cat. She cruised by a couple of times waving the tip of her tail. No sympathy at all, but what can you expect from a cat? After breakfast, more pellets. I got ready to endure another day as baby. But, to my relief, Penelope went off in a big yellow bus. Then the father drove away in his blue car. The mother took off in a red car with no roof, and I was left behind. Imprisoned. Held against my will, attached by a chain to a doghouse. I couldn't stay, of course. You knew that, right? And I knew Penelope would be sad to lose me. She'd never get that cat to play baby, that's for sure. But I had to get out of there. Life in the pretty white house wasn't life. At least not for a dog like me. But one last try. That night when the father came home from work, I tried my best to show him what I was all about. I dodged and feinted, ran full speed around the yard herding imaginary sheep, then stopped on a dime and switched directions. I even tried herding him, but he just didn't get it. He let me play for a while in the yard with Penelope. She couldn't throw a ball worth a darn, though my mom said lots of girls can. Then it was time for dinner. Penelope and Dad went inside. Me? I was supposed to entertain myself. Doing what? Chasing butterflies? It was a bad matchup, that's all, me with them. They needed a sit-around dog, a lie-in-your-lap dog, not a sheep herder like me. It was easy getting out of there once I decided to go. The pointy sticks were no higher than the father's knee. One day, when I was taking off my chain, instead of playing with Penelope, I just hopped over the sticks and took off. Didn't dare look back. I hate to see a kid cry. I don't know what I thought I was doing. Wasn't thinking, I guess. All I knew was that I had a purpose once, a reason for being alive. I'd found it, running with the fellas, and if it took the rest of my life, I was going to find it again.